What's up, Slice and Dice Maniacs? Today, we're going to talk about what do we need to play. And so, just bear with me. Our guest today will introduce himself in just a second. And we're going to talk about everything you need to go and procure before you can run your first D&D session. Hey, everybody. What's up, Slice and Dicers? So, today, episode 2, what do we need to play? I've also got our guest coming back to us. This is my brother, Oliver. And
Hello again, all.
Hey, and you can see we've definitely made some changes to the podcast, and we're excited about improving and growing based on your guys' comments, which leads us into our first section. For Roll Initiative, this is going to be our section of the show where we address comments, concerns, and things that people bring up. So the first thing I wanted to is we had a couple of private comments, people pop stuff in the email and that kind of thing, which led me up to what's our email. I'm going to flash it on the screen right here. Well, actually, right here, right, sort of between these two fingers.
Somewhere in that space.
Over my face right now. But that's our email, sliceanddice@gmail.com. And we're really excited about you guys emailing us any ideas or concepts or some little comments that might help if you don't want to post them all publicly out here in the YouTube universe. But I'm excited. Leave comments. Tell us what you want. Tell us the stories. We're going to address that during Roll Initiative, and it's sort of your way to be a part of the show. Which leads us to our last little thing of Rolling Initiative here is, what do you guys want to see? Leave comments. Send us emails. If you want to see a whole episode on how to run a goblin campaign, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Leave us comments, and after we work through the couple of things we've got picked out with our friends, we're going to move into what the internet has out there. So, what do you guys want to see? Please leave them. That's how we're going to improve it. All right? That is what we need from you. Thank you. So that's Roll Initiative, and we appreciate you guys bearing with us for our sort of meager, bare bones rolling initiative for this week. So, for the story time this week, I decided to ask Oliver to give us an example of when he DM, whether personal or someone he knows, has solved a problem in a really unique or fun way. So, Oliver, hit us.
Well, I think starting off, we'll go back to, sort of where we started off. Our original DM, when we first started off, we kind of had the bare bones basic stuff, and we had the standard monster manual. And after 3 or 4 encounters with wolves, running into the same things over and over in a forest kind of gets repetitive if you're doing the slow-moving campaign. So, to sort of be creative and give us something different and something that sort of had a lasting impression in a lot of our sessions was the creation of the land octopi.
Oh, yes.
See? Looking in the monster manual, which we'll talk about here in a bit, your creatures are listed by challenge rating, and looking for something that's sort of comparable, you kind of, if you're going slowly, you run through the list pretty quickly. So, hey, our DMs decided to be creative, and let's take this thing that you wouldn't normally run into, and let's change it around a little bit and have some fun with it, and thus the tentacled menace of the trees was created.
That is the most flattering thing anyone's ever said about a land octopus. Oh yeah, it was very creative. I just remember another instance in which it was land octopuses. We had a druid in our group who really wanted a creature to be an animal companion, and he was trying to find some diversity. And so Joey was like, "You found a land octopus," and they fed 50 trail rations to this land octopus. So just imagine this obese, rotund octopus, barely able to move its tentacles, slithering in a half semi-roll behind the person. And that is what we get with the land octopus. Something that could be almost like a dark mantle falling on you and incapacitating you, or something that's just chilling up in the trees. So
making uses of the resources you have to create something fun for everyone.
Oh yeah, and trust me, everyone who played in those sessions remembers land octopi, because we were all rolling on the floor laughing when he was saying what we were interacting with. So that kind of thing, that little moment you have with your players, that's the kind of thing that has a lasting effect. Now it's that time. It's time for the encounter, where we each answer each question that's been posed for us for the episode. Today's question, of course, is what do we need to play? So the first thing I decided that we needed is dice. You can use random generators, and Oliver's going to talk about a couple other things here in a second. But man, any person who loves his RPGs,
Feel die rolling across the table.
yeah, there's nothing that like that. The appeal of that dice roll is amazing. So I figured I'd start with the smallest sides and move on up, which leads us to there's 7 essential dice to play D&D. Everything else is just gravy. The first one I sort of want to talk about is your 4-sided dice. All right? It's like a little pyramid. It's a triangular prism of fun.
Every wizard who ever plays D&D will get to know them so well for the iconic spell Magic Missile.
I'm gonna cast Magic Missile into darkness. No. I just imagined the LARPing video where I watched one where they were throwing tennis balls. Magic Missile! Magic Missile! But a D4 is essential, and it has many functions. Outside of being small, simple weapons in D&D when you roll damage, it can do Magic Missile, other spell effects. Vicious Mockery is a new spell in 5th edition that bards will come to love.
So great.
D4s are amazing. But they also make wonderful caltrops to leave around on the floor in your bedroom so that you can step on them in the middle of the night and curse the god.
And then take 1d4 damage.
And take 1d4 damage to your foot. But they're triangular. And you don't need a lot of these, usually only 1 or 2, and you've got your dice collection set. But that is a 4-sided dice. The next one has 2 different varieties. You've got your traditional 6-sided die. New at this, guys. Give me a break. Your 6-sided die, which is your cube. And this is the kind that you are all familiar with from playing like Monopoly or Risk as a kid. But also, you've got your numerical written out sides of your dice. These are sort of, you see these more in the gaming world. They both work the same way. It all depends on preference. 6-sided dice are essential because it's going to be how you usually typically roll your character stats. And they're also going to be one of your most basic dice for damage, from like a short sword to a short bow to other things that don't have short in their name.
Fireballs.
Fireballs, all the D6s. Every single wizard or sorcerer or whatever's using fireballs has got like 52 of them, all in the same color, just to intimidate the hell out of the other players. So D6 is super fun. The next one I'm going to go to is the D8. The D8, all different uses. I actually really like D8 for longbow damage. It's good for a whole bunch of other stuff. D8s are fun. A lot of these dice you're going to hear me refer to for damage because that's one of their major functions. Certain dice have functions besides damage, but the D8, it's mostly just damage. Okay?
Quite a few classes use the D8. D6 was also used in more modern ones for health.
Yeah.
Old school wizards and stuff hated rolling the D4 for health.
Yeah.
But luckily in modern times,
let's be honest, like 1st edition, 2nd edition wizards, I could blow on them very hard and they'll fall over dead. So, yeah. Like a level 1 sorcerer, you could like piss on them, and if you got a particularly violent stream, they're going to go unconscious. But anyway, back to what I was going with. You got your D10s. Now this is where we start to get into fun. You've actually got 2 10-sided dice in a basic set. You've got your numerical 10, which goes from 0 to 9. Okay? And you've got your percentage die. They work together. You roll them both for an actual percentage. So like if I was to roll, boom, throw them both down, and this die was on 90, and this die was on 3, I rolled a 93. See how that works? Pretty simplistic. This is used for cover, loot. Sometimes the DM is just like, let's see the percent that you can do this. You need to get 80% or better. All that comes down to DM rules and discretion. The percentage dice are essential because they work really well together. Also, some big weapons use D10s as their actual damage, but these 2 dice are like the bread and butter, the peas and carrots of the D&D world. So, those are the D10s. Which leads me to one of my favorite ones, the D12. D12 I use a lot. 1, there are 12 hours on a clock. 12 spots. And if someone's rolled a 1 and dropped their weapon, I can roll a d12 and be like, your weapon's over at 3 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. That's great. You can also roll it for encounter stuff. It's also just a wonderful die, not only for directional stuff, but man, gotta get that great axe damage on your barbarian.
It is definitely one of the least used by players. It's great for DMs, but by players, it's one of the least used. You got the Great Axe, which you mentioned, and the Barbarian's Health. Those are kind of the two main uses of the D12.
So usually barbarians like D12s and DMs like D12s. Everybody else is like, meh. But that's.
I'd rather roll 2 of a smaller die.
Yeah, because then if you roll 2 of a smaller die, then you know you got at least a 2. A D12 can roll a 1. It sort of sucks. But then you've got the holy grail of the dice world. Excuse me, I got so excited I got flustered. But you got your D20, your 20-sided die. That right there, friends, is the most important die in your repertoire. Because it determines your effectiveness of your attempts to do everything from bluff to attack to everything. Okay? Excuse me, man. I'm just all
pretty much
razzle-dazzled.
All checks you're going to do, anything you attempt to do, roll a d20. That's kind of the general rule. Number of times DM will say, roll a d20 for trying to do something. You'll run into things. It's called a d20 system for a reason.
Exactly. And just an easy way when I explain this to people, because people think they automatically hit when they hear the damage. Let's say you're fighting a goblin. The goblin has 14 AC, which stands for its armor class. And you have a +3 to your attack. You roll your d20, and you roll a 14. You add your +3, that's a 17. That's higher than his AC, so you hit. That's how the system works with the d20. Alright. Then you got all kinds of crazy dice. The only one I really wanted to talk about, because I think it's fun, is you can use emotion dice, which I think are really fun. There's a lot. But a dice like this, where it has happiness and sad and super happy, etc. like that. These are great for interacting with NPCs because you can have an idea of what the NPC feels like, but wouldn't it be so much fun to be random? Like you're talking to a random shopkeep. You can write up every single character like that, but if you're like me and you're just like, this is Boris Stonefist, the local smith, and then you roll and you're like, oh, I got happy. And you walk up and like, hey, I'm having, hey lad, I'm having a good day. How can I help you? That makes it more exciting as opposed to just be like, I am Boris Stonefist, I have swords, what do you need? This can sort of break the monotony of trying to think creatively as a DM and just sort of mix you up just as much as your players. Simple dice, they're really cool and you can find them all over the place. So there's a bunch of different dice. Oliver's going to talk about some alternatives to dice.
Certainly, there's, of course, one of the most famous and one you're definitely going to get used if you're going to be doing a lot of, online systems are random number generators, be it random.org or dice roll generators.
And
there's
they're
innumerable number of them. They're great, but I'll admit I've used them a lot. Not quite that feel of rolling a die.
Yeah, I was going to say. There's nothing like rolling 26 d6s on a fireball,
But if you're trying to increase the randomness of, okay, let's see something out of 1,000. Finding some way to do 1,000 kind of can get complicated. Or a lot of different things. And there's a lot of different dice besides what Daniel mentioned here. I've seen D100s, which will roll for damn ever, and you'll have to wait 5 minutes to get your answer. But some people like them.
Oh, yeah. It's an alternative to that percentage dice. But listen, there's a lot of different options on that. Oliver's actually got another really cool one because fun stuff from researching for this episode. What do you have, Oliver?
Well, it may surprise you. Very, very popular in prison, D&D. Well, it makes sense, you're trapped in there. It gives you an escape. That's what D&D is.
Trapped. We're incarcerated. They're serving their sentence.
Fair enough, but it gives them an outlet to, sort of express themselves, get out, and, role play. Hell, even be the hero or the villain.
I hope if they're in prison, they're not playing an evil campaign. They've learned from their wicked ways.
But, who knows? But commonly used in prison for that is they aren't allowed dice. So they'll use like cards or pieces of paper or some other way of randomizing to get a result
Yeah, actually,
because they can't use dice.
one of my
Uh,
friends used to be a prison guard, and he knew several of the people, the prisoners at the facility. They would actually use a paper spinner. They had made a crafted paper spinner so they could spin that for their randomization. So it's sort of cool that this game's so much fun that like even these people who are incarcerated are like, I gotta play some D&D, y'all. So cool stuff. Move on to our next thing, which are figures, and there are myriads of types of figures. You could do anything. I mean, I've seen people use Legos to. Ooh, pardon me, I'm dropping figures. Oh, I'm back. But I've seen people use Legos to all kinds of stuff. I like to stick to the traditional. My father-in-law actually gave me a bunch of figures, and I use them and as well to supplement with the figures I have. So I'll pull out a figure from like the 80s. Boom. That right there is a lead figure that has been painted. Looks like an elven archer. That's a great figure. And they're heavy as crap. I carry around a briefcase full of figures, and I can just pop somebody and like kill them because it weighs like 35 pounds. As to opposed to the cast form figures of today, which some of these are painted and some of them aren't, that have great ascension details and beautiful. I know some people who paint that really enjoy it. Or you can go with the other traditional ones. Wizards of the Coast actually does a series and prints them off their plastic and they're painted. And these are beautiful. I love these. They're also a little expensive. But things like that, where you can get this beautifully painted figure that's already made in plastic, so they're light, they've got great texture to them. But like I said, you can also go with the non-painted figures that you can get from like Bones and Reaper, which are just a plastic figure that needs to be painted. The detail's great, but it just needs its own little touch of paint. And when you paint one, and I'm not artistic, but I know some people who paint, they do have a really cool individualism to them because you did it,
yeah.
which is super awesome. You're the one who manipulates the color. If your character wears green armor, you could choose one you like and put green armor on it.
And certainly, if you're willing to dish it out, there are places out there, sites where you can get a custom made figure exactly how you want it to be. Or if you know someone who has one or own one yourself, a 3D printer, load up a model and print off your own figure. There's a lot of things you can do, but
Sorry, I'm listening to you. I'm just having fun in my playtime. No, 3D printers have made it really cool. You can find free versions. Tiamat fighting the dragon. But you can find some awesome stuff. Another little alternative I'll throw to you. Some of the people have these. HeroClix. You don't have to look exactly like your character. Your imagination is your imagination. You just need sort of something like representation. But you can get HeroClix. Ooh, look, see, and they work
yeah,
great.
we have a monk playing in our campaign who's using Luke Cage as his figure.
Exactly. He wanted to base his monk character off of um, Samuel L. Jackson's character from Pulp Fiction, and we were like, it is hard to find an African American featured human monk. So we're like, what could we do? Luke Cage. So we had a HeroClix of Luke Cage, and it worked out great. See, we're thinking about alternatives here. And I know Oliver will address how you could do characters digitally.
Yep, if you're playing online, a lot of the places like Roll20, you can load up an image in which you can find something pretty close to what you're thinking your character looking like just on a basic Google search. Pull it up, image search. That could look pretty close. That can represent me, and just use that, and there you go.
Exactly. And it's pretty easy. Now we move on. Like I said, dice are essential. The figures, that's something you could do. Like I played a lot of groups where you could just use whiteboard and write your initial to represent where you are. The figures do add a coolness.
I've played campaigns where we didn't have a map.
Yeah, I have too. Where you draw out your own stuff, or you just have to imagine what the DM said.
Yeah, sometimes
of
depending on the level.
Of all of the D&D essentials, this is the most essential. This is a character sheet. See? Look, it's so beautiful.
This is who you are.
This is who you are. This is what you decide. And guys, we're going to go over how to make a character in another episode, so I'm not going to bore you right now. But this right here is your essential thing. When your DM says, well, roll a strength check, you're going to have to look to your character sheet. What's my strength? What's my modifier? That kind of stuff. So I know that sounds intimidating now, but character sheets are super easy. And the PDFs are fine to find. You can go, I just did this morning. Go online and type in 5th edition character sheet, find a PDF, print them off for free. All right? They want to make you get these because that means you're going to buy their equipment. So they're going to make these easy to access for free on the internet. All the only cost is to print them off. And if you if you do them digitally, like in Roll20, Oliver sort of showed me how that works the other day. So you can talk about that, Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, like we've mentioned Roll20 a lot, but it's a great resource for gaming online, and your characters have character sheets in there. You have your stats already there as you're playing. It even has that you can set it up to, you can click on the thing and it'll do the roll for you automatically, and streamlines things, keeps things moving.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
No, you pretty much covered it. The cool thing about that is that you can it'll all be digitally. It does the math for you. There's formulas in there, so when you upgrade, it'll upgrade everywhere on the form. So it's pretty cool. Loosely Excel based. All right, which leads us to another non-essential but nice thing to have. Your player's handbook. All right, this right there is about $26, $27 depending. Out on Amazon, probably pay about $35 in a store, maybe even a little more. But it's so essential to creating your character. You flip through, there's just amazing stuff in here. Resources, guides, the pictures in 5th edition are beautiful. This right here is essential to making your character. It explains how abilities work, how they're classes, how are the races. Wonderful resource. Player's Handbook, D&D, 5th edition.
Yeah.
You should get one if you're going to play. And you don't have to all get one. If you got 5 guys that are going to try this out for the first time, all of you pull your money, buy one, and then you can all make your characters and use it as a resource during the session.
Certainly. And you can find most of the information online, but for a lot of that, you got to kind of know what you're looking for. And that is one nice thing about the Player's Handbook is it lays it out simple, step by step, how to do things. If you're looking online and it's just telling you the statistics and you haven't done this before, it might not be so straightforward on knowing where you're going to determine your stats, how you're going to do this, how you're going to do that. To go play on, to the more experience with Pathfinder, Pathfinder has all of its stuff online on an SRD available open, which...
Oh yeah, you can just get everything you need online, which is great. Like I said, eventually if you move up and you play some Pathfinder, it's great because you can do the Pathfinder SRD and just, boom, there's everything you ever need. 2 other core rulebooks for 5th edition, and every edition of D&D prints these. I just happen to have the 5th one because I've sort of geeked out on 5th here recently. I just bought my wife, because she's sort of working on some sessions, a monster manual. Super cool. Oliver alluded to it earlier with the land octopus. You can flip through and just think to yourself, like, oh, I'd like to know about...
what's a bear?
What's a bear? Boom, there it is, and you can hear all about it, okay? Boom, great resource, and it has awesome backgrounds, challenge ratings, skills, abilities. It's
things
fun.
to look at if you're creating your own thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to look at similar to this. Oh, there's stats for this. So
But you don't have to have this. You can come up with your own thing. The big thing about being a DM is you can do your own ideas. You can make your own creatures that can do their own things. But if you need a little bit of help and assistance, this is an amazing resource too. The other one that is one of the core rule books is the Dungeon Master's Guide. I was actually given this one by my friend John for hosting and running some sessions. Good friend of mine, and that's also makes it special because it was a gift from a friend. Excuse me. I'm dying tonight. Hey, F you, okay? Shut up, brother. But, no, Dungeon Master Guide, wonderful tools if you're going to start into DMing. There's some cool tables, magical items, all kinds of stuff in there. You don't need it, but it is cool to have.
It's very useful, especially if you start getting further on. You know, some of your basic stuff you can do with the Player's Handbook easy, but when you start getting into high-level stuff, you start getting into crazy magical items or, crazy traps, different environments and such, it's a super useful resource to have.
Oh, yeah. Another thing is you can pick these up if you're starting out DMing or if you've never gotten any play and you have no idea. If you're right now going, I want to play D&D, I have no idea where to start. I want to have a session, I could DM my friends, but I don't know how to start a world. Go out and pick one of these up. All right? Horde of the Dragon Queen's a great one because it is designed to start at level 1 and level up. It explains everything to you. It makes your characters, NPCs, everything. So you can just really go with it. If you're like, I need to get a start, this is sort of your like how to start. And these guys like Rise of Tiamat, Horde of the Dragon Queen, these are resource guides that Wizards of the Coast has printed out with their D&D to be modules, whole stories already done. And we're going to talk about these more when we talk about DMing, but these aren't essential, but they're super fun. And they're great resources. Um,
Yes.
and I know Oliver sort of hit on it with Pathfinder with the SRD and digitally online. There's a lot of resources up there too. People are generally nice people online sometimes with the D&D world.
Hmm.
In the D&D world, yes. Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying go enjoy Reddit because
You'll
you'll
get
probably
you'll get
cry
your
yourself to
answers. You
sleep.
can
This
you
isn't.
can find stuff.
And the D&D people I've ran into are usually a little more friendly. It's not like the League of Legends starting out base or something
Salt,
like that.
salty salt, salt.
Oh, I throw all the salt because they're mean to me. They say nasty things that make my feelings hurt. But
Salt elementals.
salt elementals. But those sort of cover the books you could use. I also want to talk about a couple of little accessories that make your life easier. You don't need these to start off, but eventually they're going to be great. Things like dice rolling trays. About the 700th time you picked your dice off the floor because it's rolled off the table, you'll learn to appreciate things like these. Plus, they got that awesome sound when the dice hits them. I mean, if
Dut,
you,
dut, dut.
oh yeah, listen to that. I'm gonna put the mic right down it.
Yeah.
Oh God, that is
And
like that'll make you cry.
we have our one friend Anthony has some metal dice. Just the solid thud that those generate.
Oh
there.
yeah, you could like use them to knock someone out from across the room. Things also that are great, Inspiration's a thing in 5th edition, and some of the past things. I always reward my players if they do something super cool by giving them a resource. Like, for a fun thing, metal coins. Super easy. These have been printed off. I bought them on Amazon. I've got a dwarf and an elf set. They're really cool. They're beautiful looking. Just metal coins like this. I give them as my inspiration tokens. Or you could do stuff that's cheap, like marbles or D20s you got extra. These accessories are super, and it's all to DM's discretion. See, but you can have a cool little coin pouch and coins, and you could be cool like me.
Oh yes.
Oh yes, you got to aspire. Then you can also do. This is what I think is one of the most essential things that once you're a couple sessions in, you really want to get something like this and make your own. This is a gridded board. All I did was took a basic whiteboard you could buy, took the edges off of it, put masking tape across, spray paint. Boom! There's tutorials online. In fact, I'll probably put a link to a tutorial on how to make one of these right here on the screen, right here somewhere. Guys, super useful. And these are grids. D&D works on a grid-based system. You can do hexagonal grids, or you can do traditional square grids. Each one of these represents 5 feet. So if you got a 40 feet room, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 40 feet. All right, your characters move up points and paces. That's essential. The reason it's a whiteboard is special because you can draw, manipulate, move out your room, be like, this part of the room's on fire. All right, and you can really keep that into terms, and it's really cool. Some people can imagine that, as Oliver said, without maps and stuff, but I know a lot of us are really visual, and we'd like to see the image. It really makes the story more real to us. So, I'm trying to think. I think that's sort of everything you could use to get started. I'm sure there's other things like I have
Well, you forgot the most important thing.
friends.
The most important thing is another person.
Yes.
Other people.
What
That
other
is what you
person?
need.
Yeah. Oh, and the other most important thing, writing utensils.
Yes.
You're going to need these to make character sheets, manipulate, move on things, keep up track with
Well,
what
if
the
you're doing
DM's
it digitally, you can type on the keyboard.
You're
But
fun. But yeah, so everything's there. I mean, it's simplistic. But if I was going to say right now what you need to get started to really get the experience is a set of dice, and you can go to your local gaming shop. I know the one we go to here in town, give them a little plug because they're awesome to me, Event Horizon there in Garner. You can get a set of dice for like nothing. They're real cheap. They don't mark them up too high because they know that they're essential for gaming. And all different colors, myriads. I carry around a whole bag, and there's all kinds of ways to carry them. I have an old container that I carry all my dice around in. Um, and guys, uh, so a set of dice, character sheets, a player's handbook, and that's what you need to get started. At that, you can start pulling in the other things, figures, whiteboards, um, inspiration tokens, all kinds of stuff. But that's all your discretion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's sort of where we are. So that is your encounter for today. So that leads us into next week's episode for our wrap up here. Next week's episode is going to be how do we get started? It's going to sort of talk about as a DM, like how do you get your story together and that kind of thing. And we're going to have a couple of guests on next week. I know Oliver will be here in person, not via
Yep.
webcam. And our friend Matt's going to be on as well. He's coming down to see us
Long
this
time
weekend.
DM.
Longtime DM, likes to play. One of my oldest
Was
friends.
the best stupid orc I've ever seen.
Yep. So we're excited to have him as well on. And he's going to share his story next week. We've heard enough Oliver stories. We'll give him a break. Matt will share one of his stories. And we're all three going to be sitting right here in the Slice and Dice headquarters to talk about what do you need to get started. So we appreciate your patience this week, guys, and we're looking forward to seeing you for episode 3. What do we need to get started? And we hope you've appreciated this. Please leave your comments below. I would like to hear cool stuff, stories, episodes, anecdotes, things you want to see, things you want to hear. Maybe you just hate my stupid face. Tell me. I'll be okay with that. We're excited about doing things, guys, and I hope that you've seen that we've tried to improve it for episode 2, and we're going to just keep on moving it along. Until next time, guys, don't roll too many ones.